Oh my God. Boom.
Get the catcher's mitt up, Trav.
The way it flies in the air really, I feel like, adds insult to injury. Well, I hope your Monday's off to a better start than this, guys.
This is Sportscentre.
Hey, I'm Julia Teixeira, and another NFL Sunday is in the bag. And it was a lot of what we've been seeing throughout the season. Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce going off, and a whole lot of Taylor Swift. Plus, the Eagles literally shoving their way past the Dolphins in a pretty good Sunday nighter. And then there's the Bills. What in the world is going on with the Bills? They fell 29-25 to a pretty miserable Pats team. Buffalo's second loss in their last 3 games, with the lone win being the ugly one over the Giants last week. Joined now by our TSN football analyst, Davis Sanchez. Davis, thanks for joining us.
Good to be here.
Davis, I gotta ask you the pressing question. What is going on with the Buffalo Bills?
Bills fans have high expectations, and after the success they've had in the regular season over the last couple of years, I understand why. I get it. But if you look defensively, they're just not talented enough right now. And that's not to say they won't be later in the season, but right now they're just not good enough. If you look, we don't have the number 1 corner, Tre'Davious White. You don't have your best linebacker, maybe your best defensive player in Matt Milano. Both the inside guys, Daquan Jones and Ed Oliver, they're both out. Von Miller's been out. I mean, you're missing that many players on defense. It's understandable why you're struggling, and for me, that's it's plain and simple. But I get the frustration from Bills fans because they have the expectation for this team to be really good.
Turnovers were again a problem for Josh Allen, starting with the Bills' first play from scrimmage. What's your level of concern with his decision making?
Yeah, that's the question that we hear a lot. The decision making for Josh Allen. But I'm gonna take it a step further, and I'm gonna say, at what point do we look at Josh Allen and say, maybe he's just not reading the defense? And that's not all the time. I'm not gonna question the football IQ of Josh Allen, but at times I think it's not computing for him, because we've been giving him that excuse for 3 or 4 years now that, it's Brett Favre. He's a gunslinger. He's aggressive. He's trying to carry the team on his back. Well, that interception in the first quarter, the first play of the game last week, was not a gunslinger. That's just someone that didn't read the defense or couldn't read the defense. So at some point we have to start to look at, other answers than just Josh is trying to be a superhero, and maybe say he's not reading it sometimes.
Well, it's a short week for Buffalo. They've got a chance to turn things around Thursday at home against the Bucs. Davis, thanks for this.
It's far from over for the Buffalo Bills. They're still a contender, but they got some work to do on that roster.
To hockey now, and disastrous doesn't even start to describe the beginning of the season for the Edmonton Oilers. Just 1 win in their first 5 games. And now they'll be without Connor McDavid for a couple of weeks following an upper body injury. McDavid's own start was a little slow based on his lofty standards, with 2 goals and 8 points in 5 games. That's compared to the 5 goals and 10 points he had in the first 5 games of last year. But McDavid's production is certainly not what's ailing Edmonton. Outside of McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, and Nugent-Hopkins, Warren Foegele is the only forward with more than 1 point. Obviously, the best being the best is good, but once again, the Oilers have no depth to speak of up front. If we take a look under the hood, though, the numbers are at least a little bit encouraging. The Oilers have the 5th worst goals above expected at 5-on-5, and the 2nd best Corsi percentage behind Carolina. Here's the bad, though, and spoiler alert if you knew this, but the defensive numbers on this team are a mess. We're talking the most giveaways in the league at 55, and the 2nd most defensive zone giveaways with 35. Add in Stuart Skinner having the 2nd worst goals saved above expected, and you could see why this team's in trouble. Meaning, they're not the cup favorites we thought they were right now. Back to football, and we've got one more game before we wrap Week 7, with the Niners and Vikings in Monday Night Football. San Fran had its hopes of an undefeated season squashed 8 days ago, by the Browns of all teams. And NFL fans were shocked to discover that Brock Purdy could actually lose a game. Some good news for the Niners, though. Christian McCaffrey is questionable but expected to play tonight after leaving that game against Cleveland with an oblique injury. And how impactful is that? Well, the Niners are 16-1 in games McCaffrey's played since he was acquired last October. And he's rushed for just under 1,300 yards with 19 total touchdowns. But it's not all good news for the Niners. O-lineman Trent Williams is doubtful with an ankle injury, and Deebo Samuel is out after a CT scan revealed a hairline fracture in his shoulder. Meanwhile, the Vikings are a complete mess. They're 0-3 at home, and their only 2 wins this season are against the Bears and the Panthers, who are a combined 2-11. Despite all that, FanDuel currently has the Niners as just a 7-point road favorite. You can catch tonight's game between the Niners and Vikings on TSN. Kickoff at 8:15 Eastern, 5:15 Pacific. To basketball, and we're just one day away from the NBA season getting underway. You may recall Scottie Barnes was untouchable in Kevin Durant trade talks last year, and Toronto wasn't willing to put him on the table in any Damian Lillard talks this past summer. That despite the fact that his numbers didn't really budge in his sophomore season, Barnes' scoring average was exactly the same, and his efficiency was down across the board. So you can't help but wonder what's in store for year 3. If you're on the Barnes bounce back train, FanDuel's got something for you. They have him at 20-1 for most improved player this season. Pretty enticing odds for a guy that won Rookie of the Year 2 seasons ago. And Barnes was showing out in the preseason. He averaged 18.5 points in just 22 minutes per game, shooting nearly 63% from the field. Now Raps fans have to wait till Wednesday for their season opener, but we've got a doubleheader on TSN tomorrow night to hold you over. The Lakers and Nuggets get it started at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, followed by the Suns and the Warriors. That's all for today. I'll see you right back here tomorrow at 3 Eastern, noon Pacific.